Today we're going to make paste using the KitchenStir. What the KitchenStir provides for us is hands-free cooking of the paste, and also it makes really nice and smooth paste. And while you can make paste in a double boiler or in a pot, you'd have to tend it all the time, and plus it would be kind of difficult to make paste as nice as the KitchenStir does, because the KitchenStir is turning constantly, and it makes a very nice and smooth homogeneous paste. And one thing I wanted to point out was that inside the KitchenStir is a moving part, which is the stirring part, which looks like this, and it fits on a little post very easily. And in general, I keep this piece very clean, and when I'm not using the machine, I keep it separate from the KitchenStir, because I don't want any, the post is steel, and I don't want any rust to form by accident. And then when I'm ready to use it, I put it back on. Having said that, the KitchenStir is a very large machine, and you're rarely going to want to fill it up. You're not going to want to make that much paste. That's a lot of paste, unless you're doing like a big project. But today we're going to make about 2 cups of paste. I'll show you the utensils, and the utensils very simple. Tablespoon, clean dishes, measuring cups, clean water, distilled water, spring water, filtered water. I wouldn't use tap water because there may be things in there you don't want in your paste. And some sort of starch paste. So today we're going to be using Zen Shofu wheat starch paste, which is a very high quality paste that conservators use, book and paper conservators use it quite often. Makes a very nice paste, but you could use rice starch paste, rice starch, you could use other kinds of wheat starch, and really if you had to, you could use flour. I wouldn't use it, but for home purposes, if you wanted to, it would work. Also, the KitchenStir, the model that has been adapted for paste making, starts at a lower temperature than is indicated on the temperature strip. It actually starts at 150. We don't want our paste to boil. We don't want hot, bubbling paste. That would not be good. We want the paste to cook slowly at a low temperature, and so we're going to set it even below the numbers. Start somewhere between warm and the numbers, and we're hoping that's sort of around 150. But I'm not going to use a thermometer because this will be fine. Really, the indicator of trouble would be if you started to see the paste rapidly boiling. You would not want that to happen. So then I turn it on, and I leave my temperature, somewhere in there, and this is already unstirring. You have a choice here of on, off, auto. And then I'll put in 2 cups of water. Okay, and so the first thing you would need to do, and I've done this previously, is to make your paste slurry. And the paste slurry is basically you just mixed up some paste and water and let it sit for 20 minutes. So in this case, I will use about 1/4 cup of water, and I've done this just enough to allow the paste to dissolve. And this is my paste slurry that I made a while ago, and it will have been sitting about 20 minutes before when I make the paste. And you need to let it sit because you'll have a much finer paste in the end, and it'll just be much smoother, and when it dries it'll have a nicer appearance as well. So we're going to use 6 tablespoons to 2 cups of water plus our little 1/4 cup. And there is no law of the proportions paste making. Basically, I'm looking for a paste that's this is a paste I made yesterday, has a little skim on it, but I'm looking for a nice firm paste, not too firm, kind of a medium paste that I could, if I had to, use it in full thickness, and I might have a reason to do that, or I can thin it down to a much thinner viscosity, which has a lot of uses as well. There's so many uses for paste, and each use really would have a different requirement, but this way it has a lot of flexibility. So I'm going to put 6 tablespoons into the water, the little water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's it for that. And then I'll take a little whisk. You could use a spoon or a fork, but these whisks are nice for this. And just stir it up, and you'll see very quickly that it will dissolve in the water. Once you get it smooth, you just put it down, forget about it for a little while, and then you'll wind up with something that looks exactly the same as that, but it will be a much nicer solution. Nothing's sitting on the bottom, it's all very nicely dissolved, but I'm letting the water get hot, and I will add in my slurry. And what you'll see is that in the beginning the slurry is opaque white, and very soon, or as soon as it starts cooking, you'll see it thicken, and you'll see the color turn to a translucent, just a translucent color. And basically you don't do anything, you just let it go. And you might monitor the temperature. You definitely want to monitor, is it bubbling or not, or is it just cooking nicely without any bubbling, which is what I'm looking for. So our paste has been cooking for about a half an hour, and the qualities that you're seeing are that it's very translucent, it's gotten quite thick, it appears to be smooth, and I'm going to test it. And the test is really my personal choice to make. So I'm looking for a paste that's not so thick that it's like solid, something that still has a certain fluidity to it, but when I rub it between my fingers it's quite tacky. And this is controlled just by cooking it longer. The longer you cook it, the tackier it gets, the water evaporates. So I'll just dip my finger in, feel the viscosity by rolling it around, and then just do this so I can feel if it's how tacky it is. So I will, when I'm finished, turn the machine off, pick it up. This is a little too much for this size dish, so I won't pour it all out. I'll pour it into my dish, and you'll see it'll be slightly runny. And as the paste cools down, as in other flour and starch-based recipes, this will get more solid. So what I would normally do at this point would be to take a piece of saran wrap, which I have in my hand, and cover the surface of the paste, because that'll keep a skin from forming, as it did yesterday. When I made my paste yesterday, I didn't put anything on it, and there's a skin on it. I'm not too concerned about that because I'm going to strain it anyway, but you lose a little paste that way. Just cover the surface with something so that you don't get a skin, and let it cool down. You don't want to use hot paste. So this is the paste that I made yesterday. This is the same as in this container, and you always want to strain your paste, because even if you've already, before you use it, because even if you strain your paste before you used it the last time, it continues to get a skin on it from the air, and you always want to use smooth paste that has no lumps and bumps and no dry areas. Plus, you might want to adapt the viscosity of it by adding a little water and thinning it out, because it could be too thick for certain things. So normally I just use a plastic strainer, again, not a metal strainer, because I don't know what that metal has in it. It might have corrosive materials that will get into the paste. So I'll use a plastic, or in this case, in conservation, we might use a horsehair strainer, which this is, a Japanese strainer with a beautiful wooden bucket. They do the same thing. So I'll just put my little strainer in my container, and I will put some of the paste that I want into the strainer, and either with a spatula, a rubber spatula, or a brush, I just push it through. And I might strain 2-3 times, especially if I'm adding water. If I was going to add water to this, which I can show you how to do also, you definitely want to strain a few times, because you want the water and the paste mixed very well. Okay, so That's your paste, and that is a thick, thick paste. A nice, dry, thick paste. You know, which I think is probably too thick for most things. So if I wanted to water it down, I'll add a little bit of water. A little bit of water. Let's put that there. I probably ought to just, maybe that's a lot of water. That's too much water. I'll pour some out. So I just want to thin it down. Mix it up and run it through the strainer again. That looks a little better. So, get my strainer, run it through again, probably a couple of times, and the water, well, we'll talk about applications of paste later, but basically, you don't want too much water in your paste because the water will get into whatever the paper that you're pasting, and it'll make it wet. It could make distortions. It could make tide lines. You have to be careful with the paste. You don't want to use it too wet. You can get thin paste that isn't too wet, but on the conversely, you don't want to use thick paste. You don't want to use so much paste that it oozes out on things either. So we'll talk about that. But okay, so that's a nice, perfectly respectable, general medium weight, medium thickness paste. Of course, I'd have to test it. Let me feel it now. Still got a lot of tack to it. Okay. So I might use this paste for putting down a book plate, or for tipping something into a book, or for putting down an end paper. For all those things it would work. For doing paper repair, I'd probably thin it down a little bit more, a lot more, and I don't know, I'll show you how to do some of those things.